Good day, dear friends. You are on the Ruslan Belov channel. This is our second time meeting today. The situation demands it because dozens of channels have already reported that battles are taking place in the city of Sudzha in the Kursk region. A powerful offensive by the Russian army is underway from several directions. Look at the map. The armed forces of Ukraine, AFU, cannot withstand the onslaught. They are retreating. As I already mentioned, many channels have reported that battles are happening in Sudzha, and now we will analyze what is actually going on. So without delay, let's open the map. Friends, I initially planned to make a video about the Kursk region tomorrow, but the situation is unfolding so rapidly that I had to release a special report. Tomorrow, there will also be a video about the Kursk region, where we will summarize the first day of the powerful Russian offensive there. But for now, let's go over the initial data. Again, I must emphasize that the situation is changing very quickly, so all the relevant information I am discussing here is as of the evening of March 8th. Before talking about the offensive itself, let's first understand why it became possible. Yesterday, the Russian army made a breakthrough. Pay attention, advancing 6 kilometers. This happened near the Kurilovka area. From there, assault units pushed forward 6 kilometers and reached the second supply road. Here it is, as you can see. They managed to physically cut it off. As a result, the alternative supply route became inaccessible to the Ukrainian armed forces. More importantly, from these positions, Russian drones can now easily reach the main supply road. The distance from these positions to the road is just 6 kilometers, while FPV drones have an operational range of 8 to 10 kilometers. This means they can now strike the Yunakivka-Sudzha highway. Previously, they could only reach it from Novenka in the Sumy region, which is just 5 kilometers away. Now, fire is being directed at the highway from both sides. As I mentioned yesterday, not even a mouse can slip through, let alone tanks, armored personnel carriers, or infantry fighting vehicles. Thus, the entire AFU grouping in the Kursk region has found itself in operational encirclement. This is not a full-fledged cauldron yet, as the road has not been completely severed. However, it is an operational encirclement because there is no longer a safe way out for the AFU from the Kursk region. Only under heavy drone and artillery fire. How many AFU soldiers are there in this area? Estimates vary. The lowest figure I've heard is 6,000 soldiers. The highest estimate, which was published today by The Telegraph, is 10,000 soldiers. So, somewhere within this range, the number of Ukrainian troops who have fallen into operational encirclement in the Kursk region. The only way out is under fire, and resupply of reserves and ammunition is completely impossible, absolutely out of the question. Nothing can be transported along the road when it is under fire from both sides. Given this situation, it was expected that the Russian army would launch a major offensive on all fronts. And it did. This morning, multiple reports started coming in about Russian troops advancing in various areas. The main objective of the offensive is the city of Sudzha. Again, there are many sources and a lot of information, so let's go through it step by step. First of all, today, the villages of Viktorovka and Nikolaevka came under Russian control. This is confirmed 100%. Additionally, reports emerged that Russian forces moved south along the highway, took control of the Kubatkin hamlet, and entered Kazachia Loknya, where battles are currently ongoing. The overall offensive by the Russian army now looks like this. Let me show you this map again. Look at these lines and arrows. They indicate the directions from which the Russian army is advancing. Let's analyze each direction in detail. Once again, let me show you the scheme of the Russian offensive that began today after the main exit route was put under fire control. Now, let's go step by step. At around 10 a.m. Moscow time, Russian war correspondent Podubny reported that a large-scale Russian offensive on Sudzha had begun. Later, various telegram channels run by fighters on this front, including AD and war correspondent Kulko, reported at 2 p.m. that Russian troops had already entered the city of Sudzha. This information was also published by the telegram channel 2 Majors. However, I must say that I personally do not have confirmation of this. The latest information I personally received from the field was as follows. Battles are ongoing in the southern part of Makhnovka. Additionally, fighting has started in Martinovka. That's all for now. Beyond this, we have radio silence. Therefore, today we will rely on the reports coming from other war correspondents, including Special Forces and the AID group, as well as other sources. So, what do we have so far? First, the offensive is advancing from the Martinovka direction. The goal here is to take control of the village, reach the road, and then use it to advance into the settlement of Mirny. From there, as you can see, a direct road leads to the city of Sudzha. Martinovka is being stormed by Akhmat, or rather the AID unit, which is also part of Akhmat. Another offensive is coming from the direction of Ruskaya Konopelka. Again, the target from these positions is the settlement of Mirny, and from there, entry into Sudzha. From the direction of Cherkasskaya Konopelka, the 11th Airborne Brigade has entered Makhnovka. As I mentioned earlier, according to the latest reports, as of this morning, fighting was only taking place on the southern outskirts of the village. I doubt that an advance into Sudzha itself could have happened from there, because to do that, they would first need to take all of Makhnovka, then take Zamostiye, and only after that move into the city of Sudzha. Accomplishing all of this in just a few hours seems unrealistic to me. And even if it were possible, it would only be if these villages were completely abandoned. But again, a communication blackout has been imposed, and I haven't been able to contact my source since the morning. Meanwhile, others are reporting that fighting is already happening inside Sudzha. Some people on Telegram have even claimed that Sudzha has already been liberated. Well, okay, let's leave that information on their conscience. What else is known? Look, the 30th Motorized Rifle Regiment is engaged in intense assault operations in the Cherkasskoye Porechnoye area. The objective here is not Sudzha, but rather reaching Kazachya Lokhnya and taking control of the entire northern salient. By the way, that is very close to happening. Right now, AFU resistance remains only in Malaya Lokhnya, and even there, more than half of the village is already under Russian control. As for the other villages, as I mentioned earlier, they have returned home. These include Staraya Sorochina, Nikolaevka, and Viktorovka. If Russian assault troops manage to push through Malaya Lokhnya in the next few hours, this entire salient, an area of about 25 square kilometers, will come under Russian control. But you know, for the AFU, losing this northern salient or those 25 square kilometers is not even the worst part. As I mentioned, numerous sources, literally dozens, are reporting today that fighting is already taking place inside Sudzha itself. I am not ready to stake my reputation on this claim, so here are the screenshots. I am referencing other sources. Everything I was able to personally confirm before the communication blackout, I have already shared with you. Viktorovka and Nikolaevka have been taken, Russian forces have entered Makhnovka, and fighting is ongoing in Martinovka. This information is 100% confirmed. Everything else remains uncertain for now. However, by tomorrow, when the fog of war clears, we will be able to give an accurate assessment. In any case, the liberation of the Kursk region is now a matter of weeks rather than several months, as it seemed even just a week ago. And soon, all the residents of the Kursk region will be able to return to their homes. Just before recording this video, I received information that the AFU is abandoning Kazachya Lokhnya and retreating towards Sudzha. Additionally, Russian forces have taken control of Zamostiye, a suburb of Sudzha. Now let's move to other front lines, starting with this particular section, the village of Kamenskoye in the Zaporizhzhia region. Here, Russian troops have almost completely erased the past gains of the Ukrainian armed forces. Remember when they launched attacks from the right bank to the left? They even managed to push Russian positions back a little. But now, as you can see, control over the left bank has been restored. The Americans still mark this area as a grey zone on their maps. However, Russian forces have already attempted to probe the AFU's defenses on the left bank. If we move further east, clashes are still ongoing in the Pyatikatki area. No significant progress has been observed there in the past 24 hours, nor in other sections of the Zaporizhzhia region. The situation is completely different further south, in the Veliko-Novoselkovsky district. Here, the front is very dynamic. After Russian troops took control of Burlatskoye and Privolnoye, the main assaults are now targeting Shevchenko and Volnoye Pole. In fact, fighting is already taking place for Volnoye Pole. It's not marked on the map yet, but Ukrainian sources themselves are confirming this information. They won't be able to hold off the Russian advances here for long. And it's possible that by the time you watch this report, the AFU will have already retreated from Volnoy Pole towards Shevchenko. Again, the front is highly fluid, and sometimes events develop very quickly. The AFU knows that they won't be able to hold Shevchenko for long either. Why? Because the assault is coming not only from the south but also from the east, from the direction of Belatskoye. That's why they are already saying they will have to withdraw beyond the third line of defense, which is located past Shevchenko. The battle for Dnipro-Energo also continues. So far, there has been no significant progress. The Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU, are using their defensive line to repel attacks. On the Russian side, artillery and drones are actively targeting the village. Sometimes even FAB bombs are used. In addition to the Russian forces aiming to break through the third line of defense beyond Shevchenko, they are also taking concrete actions to bypass the second line of defense. This second line runs from Komar, then along the river to Fyodorovka, and then across the fields, reaching the Razdolnoye-Bogatyr highway. This is why the advance from Novokomara has stalled, and there is no movement from these positions toward Otradnoye. The reason for the lack of movement is the solid, reinforced defensive line in this area. A frontal assault would result in heavy losses, so the advance here has paused, but movement has begun further east, south of Rozliv. There was an immediate push of 3 kilometers, over a section about 2 kilometers wide. In total, 6 square kilometers have come under control. The primary objective is to reach the Razdolnoye-Bogatyr highway and, most importantly, to flank the defensive line from behind. This line runs here, and if the advance continues, it will hit the rear of the defenses, making them completely useless. Consequently, the road to the Zaporizhzhia-Kurakov highway will be open, and the Ukrainian garrison in Bogatyr will face near-total encirclement. This is the main goal of the entire operation in this area. By the way, fighting has already started for Rozliv itself. This village is another obstacle to reaching the Razdolnoye-Bogatyr highway. Currently, battles are taking place on the southern outskirts of the village, while in Constantinople, the situation is hanging by a thread. Just yesterday, reports appeared in Ukrainian media suggesting that the AFU was withdrawing from the village, but this information needs further verification. For now, we note that Ukrainian forces still maintain a presence in the northern part of Constantinople. However, their situation here is extremely precarious, and the defensive line could collapse at any moment. Moving further north, the clearing of Andreevka is now complete. The Russian flag has been raised in the western part of the village. While Ukrainian sources, including Deep State, do not officially recognize full Russian control, even Ukrainian military analysts are now questioning why the village has not been recolored on their maps. Given the presence of Russian flags in multiple locations, it is evident that the entire village is under Russian control. Furthermore, Russian forces have already advanced more than 3.5 kilometers from Andreevka toward the eastern outskirts of Alexeyevka. No direct entry into the village has been reported yet, but it could happen at any moment, as the distance between Russian positions and the village outskirts is only 500 meters. A final push into Alexeyevka could be made at any time. This would be a serious warning sign for Bogatyr and the surrounding areas. As I have already explained, after Alexeyevka, only a few small settlements remain before reaching the Dnipropetrovsk region. Further north from Andreevka, Russian forces are advancing through the fields to straighten the front line and link up with positions in Zaporizhzhia. However, beyond Zaporizhzhia, progress around Nadezhdinka toward Kotlyarovka has been slow, with advances measured in small increments of 100 to 150 meters. No major breakthroughs toward the Dnipropetrovsk region, which is now within reach, have been reported yet. That concludes today's update. I wish you a great rest of your day and see you soon.